Good morning. I trust you recollect that we had talked about the protest of some parents about teaching of music in Toronto and their threat to withdraw the children. We never thought that we are going to cave in. At that time, they had agreed to let the students go. But what happened in Peel region? And the Peel region is quite a big region of GTA, covering Mississauga, which is the sixth largest city of Canada, Brampton and Caledon. So this region, the school board here has taken an extremely unusual step. And that is that they have ordered the closure of more than 100 music rooms. Imagine, more than 100 music rooms closed. That means in more than 100 schools, music shall not be taught to the elementary school children, which till now has been the basic requirement of education. In the Canadian education system, music is deemed to be extremely important, and it's very rightly so. You recollect that I had written an article the same day I had discussed it here, where I had quoted psychologists who say the students who learn music, who play on any instrument, or who can sing are much better than other students. Music hones their skills not only to appreciate music, but also to understand other disciplines. It was very curious when Mr. Harley, a psychologist, came up with evidence that music also helps mathematical faculties to be developed more acutely. So this action of the Peel School Board is absolutely beyond comprehension of common people. Quite possibly that Mississauga is home to a vast majority of Muslims who are very wide awake, but there is a small minority of fundamentalists who talk loud and make the silent, sensible people keep quiet. And to possibly ensure that this carping set of fundamentalists is satisfied, the Peel School Board took the decision. And now comes in a major issue. The plea taken was that they are closing down these more than 100 music rooms because of the finances involved. The teachers over there have very clearly submitted to the board that this is wrong because there is no further investment required. The rooms are already there, the teachers are already there, the curriculum and the syllabi is already there, and the timetable of the schools clearly shows at what time those elementary school students have got to learn. So if there is no further investment required, then why go in for this implausible, unacceptable plea that finances compel them to close the music rooms? Secondly, the very basis of this specious plea is exposed when Peel School Board simultaneously announces that they are going to build unisex washrooms in the schools, genderless washrooms. Another stupidity that is gaining ground in politically correct circles. They say there should be no washrooms differentiating the sex. Boys and the girls can go to the washroom where they want to go, and they should not be asked to go to the male or the female, boy and the girl washroom. Imagination staggers. But coming to the point in hand, if finance was a problem about running an already successful program, which is extremely useful, and closing it down, and the same excuse not being touted for building one-sex washrooms. There's some contradiction somewhere. There's some loophole somewhere. They say that one should have some sense in making excuses. Here, Peel School Board has exposed the hollowness of its excuse of financing being the main issue touted for closing the music rooms. Because if the finance was an issue at that time, then finance would be an issue for starting the new project, which may not be very well required even. Now, question arises, how long would we sacrifice Canadian values? How long we would keep on satisfying carping demands of the people who do not understand the basics of education? Somebody somewhere thought of it, and then they said, no, we don't want music. They forgot that music is not only the base of good education, good personality development, but it is also the base of all religion. All prayers, for example, are in musical tones. Just for example, as I said earlier, Azan is musical. And the discovery of major instruments is an Arabian invention. They made the first musical instruments, rabab, santoor. These are all Arabian in nature. And then they went to Turkey, and then they came to the other parts of the world. Violin, again, Turkish invention. So the concept of religion being embroiled in pursuing cave age ideas doesn't suit. Secondly, when the government really wants to be firm, then it doesn't care for the carping criticism. You remember when the same-sex education was touted and accepted, there was a lot of objection. The number of objections at that time was much more than opposition to the music is. But at that time the government was firm, and I praise the government for that action. I said at that time that that's required, and I say it again, that's required. But why this caving in now? I talked to some politicians in the Queen Park, and they gave me to understand, well, the school boards are autonomous in nature and the provincial government has no role to play. Legally, yes, I fully appreciate that point. But then tell me, at least they can lay down the guidelines, or the Minister of Education can call the Peel School Board to explain that one discipline which has been taught, practiced for the century and a half, 150 years we are going to celebrate next year. So for 150 years that education has always incorporated music. And now the latest research shows that this is one thing which has stood the test of time. That music makes you a better man, results in a more organic personality, and is a welcome sign. So why the deviation? Why the change? There is definitely something somewhere which is not being told. But coming as it is on the heels of the Scarborough incident, when the local imam said that teaching of music and learning of music is un-Islamic, though it was immediately condemned by at least 5 Muslim organizations. The Muslim organizations representing liberal, intelligent, capable Muslims. And as a matter of fact, even some imams said that Quran nowhere forbids music. Some hadiths do, but Quran doesn't. So there is no holy injunction against music as say. So then why accept it? Secondly, if one group doesn't want one subject to be taught, does it mean that the other group should be deprived of it? Today, one group says we don't want music. Tomorrow another group will say we don't want biology. The third day another group will say we don't want literature, because literature also has sometimes and many times sexual overtones. So that way you keep on dropping one subject after the other. And then one day you'll say, no, we don't want to study physics or astronomy because they violate the old religious canons. For example, the science tells you that Earth revolves around the sun. Well, the old religious scriptures say no, Earth doesn't. And they say Earth is flat. So are we going back to the cave age, the stone age? This politically correctness and this desire to satisfy the urges of a small, minuscule minority which is very vocal, and when we come to that pressure, we expose our weakness as human beings. I'm not talking of the administration, because the administration basically has not done its job in upholding the Canadian values. It talks a lot, but it doesn't act. But as human beings, are we being honest to the younger generation in depriving them of the beauties of music? They say music is a soul of food. Why do we want their souls to go hungry? This is a question, but it's a part of the larger question. The first question is why music should be banned or stopped. But the larger question is how long shall we allow a small minority to dictate the decisions, and especially decisions which are sane. I have no problem to opening up an issue in case there is some validity in the argument. But an argument based on unreason, illogic, has no likelihood or should have no likelihood of being accepted. Peel School Board has an obligation to ensure that the Canadian children and the would-be Canadian children, because the immigrants who come are going to be Canadian children one day when we take the oath, shall not be deprived of proper all-round education just to satisfy the whims and caprices of some misguided souls. We cannot permit every Tom, Dick and Harry to come and play with the lives of the children. We cannot permit any deluded people to come and play havoc with the Canadian values. We have to stand firm. You give them an inch, then they'll take an L, is an old proverb. And by succumbing to the pressure of some moronic thoughts, we reveal the hollowness of our claims to be dedicated to our values. It's still not too late. The community leaders of the Peel region The religious leaders of the Peel region, the political leaders of the Peel region have to be reminded that it is their sacred duty to ensure the welfare of the children and proper education. And there must not be any letdown of these young children. They must not say tomorrow that for the sake of satisfying the urges of misguided people and due to the cowardice of the political leadership and due to the mental blindness of the rulers, they have been deprived of learning the beauties of music. Not music per se, but music as a tool of enhancing their mental faculties. I am sure you would agree that it's not asking too much. That is a need today. Let's not forget that. Thank you.